As sports history fans, we often reminisce about the legends. Willis Reed limping onto the NBA Finals court, Curt Schilling's bloody sock, Kerry Strug's courageous dismount, and so many more. These moments often define sports history. But what about the countless injuries that did not become legends, or careers that were derailed due to inadequate care? That's where this episode's sponsor comes in. Introducing to you, ILP Sports Consultants, your trusted sports injury partner, available 24/7. Brian Maelli at ILP Sports Consultants has over 20 years of experience in the orthopedic and sports medicine industry, and he has worked with athletes across the gamut, from youth to amateurs, professionals, in almost every sport played in the United States of America, accommodating athletes at every stage of their career. This adaptability ensures that ILP services are perfectly tailored to your skill level, no matter where you are in your athletic journey. With ILP, you are in control. Choose the steps that matter most to you. Diagnosis, treatment plan, recovery, or the whole journey. ILP services are tailored to your unique needs. Rushing for care is a common pitfall, leading to future problems. ILP Sports Consultants helps you make the right decisions, ensuring that you receive timely and safe care. And here's the bonus. Brian hosts the Injured List podcast, sharing insights and athlete stories you won't want to miss. Whether you're a concerned parent or grandparent, or an athlete yourself seeking guidance, ILP Sports Consultants is your beacon of hope in sports injury management. Visit ILPsports.com today. That's the letters ILPsports.com. ILP Sports Consultants, where your well-being is the priority and your recovery is the mission. Choose ILP Sports Consultants for a healthier sports journey, helping you get back in the game the smart way.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tonight we'll go back in time to season's past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score, which would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight, we'll explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats Football History and its Memorabilia on the Gridiron Greats Publishing and Broadcasting Network, in conjunction with Swick Enterprises. And we're live from the Wallingford, Connecticut home of Gridiron Greats magazine. I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America which focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 150-plus years of football history and memorabilia, and you can find us on the web at GridironGreatsMagazine.com. It is at this time I'd like to introduce my co-host. He's a senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia historian, specializing in pre-World War II items, in particular Red Grange, and also Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Lark. He hails from Portland, Oregon, Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show this evening.
Always a pleasure to be on, Captain. Always good to talk to you.
And welcome to another show here of Gridiron Greats, the podcast. And we got a great show, and a advertiser of Gridiron Greats magazine has an incredible piece in their current auction. I'm going to hand off to you, Joe, and fill our audience in on that item.
I think my favorite part of the show is talking hobby with the captain. In the minutes prior to coming on air. And he and I were talking before, and I admitted I feel a little bit like an old man, yelling get off my porch to people, because there is a 2000 a 2000 Tom Brady card that is in Leland's right now. That they call it the Holy Grail. It's the playoff contender ticket, and it's over $2 million right now, which makes me feel, get off my lawn. But at the same time, it's the modern hobby coming. We brought this up on VFC. I brought it up on our vintage football cards chat room yesterday. And a couple of people chimed in and said, well, it's only limited to 100. Well, it's got me thinking, how many Nagurski cards are there? In total. It's much rare. I don't know. I'm kind of stunned that a modern 2000 card, even if there's only a couple hundred or 100 of them, would be over $2 million right now.
Well, here's the perspective, and I've talked about this over the years, that if something is current, yes, if there's only 100 cards of them available, but something like a Nagurski, maybe there's only 50 cards in existence still, which is more rare. To a younger person who has never heard of Nagurski, the Brady is much more rare than obviously the Nagurski. The older collectors like you and I and others, the Nagurski is, the white whale that we're looking for, as compared to a Brady from the year 2000, where both you and I and many others could have been buying those boxes of cards at the time, but because the market was so inundated with so many different brands, types of brands, sub-brands, you name it, it became so overwhelming that a lot of people say, hey, I'm not going to buy this, I'm not going to buy that, I'm not going to buy, whatever. Yeah. And I look back basically from 1991 on. I bought tops up to 2015, and usually one of our nieces would buy me for like Christmas, or Brenda would buy for my birthday a box of a newer item, which I had no clue what it was, and I would just open up the packs randomly, not realizing I should have just put the box away, because I never know, what the next $2 million card may come to the market that I opened and I'm actually touching with my hands type of thing. So because of the saturation of the market beginning in 1989, which I consider to be the modern era, the saturation of the past 32 years is so intense. Who bought all these cards? Where are they? How did they get split open? I mean, how did the packs get opened? Where are they? Who are they? So on and so forth. So this is a perfect storm in a way, because you got Brady, probably, without a doubt, the best quarterback who's ever lived. The man is ageless. He's proven it. And 21 years ago, which is now vintage to some people who are in their 30s or whatever, are saying to themselves, I got to have this card, blah, blah, blah. I kind of feel that this card is either going to a group of collectors or investors who are buying it and putting it away, or deep-pocketed, obviously a very, very deep-pocketed collector who needs that card and wants that card bad. That's my opinion on it. But I'm floored by it. I'm just absolutely floored. It's incredible.
You mentioned before the show, it's at $1,787,980. Just quick math.
Yeah, and what?
That's about 300 in VIG. So you're about 340 in VIG. So it's near $2.1 million for a 2000 playoff contenders championship rookie. And you look at his autograph on it, you can tell if there are 100 of these cards and he had to autograph all 100, you can tell this is about number 98, because his autograph is getting a little sloppy there.
Yep.
I don't get it. For $2 million, you could buy I mean, you're given you're given the Castor line, the Hunt Castor line, Hall of Fame run for their money. Or at least you're solidly number 2 there. I mean, oh my gosh, and like I said before the show, I feel like a little bit of an old man, where it's just like, what the hell's going on here? It's similar to get off my lawn. It's just I don't get it. But then again, all of us, as I said before, all of us are grown men who collect pictures of men in tights on cardboard. I mean, none of us can wag a finger at, the entire, rest of the world looks at us and is like, what the hell are you doing collecting these cards? So it's not for me to wag my finger at somebody plumping down $2 million on this.
I'm wondering now, too, if now the other, for lack of a better term, quote-unquote, rookie cards of Brady are going to start to really escalate in value, those that are in more, have been printed in a greater volume, since we really don't know print volumes of Topps or whatever over the years, especially the last 15 years they were printing. Did they, are there 1,000 of them? There's, 5,000 of them, there's 10,000, so on and so forth. I wonder if that's going to push the entire market for Brady cards through the roof now,
He has 2 other very, very popular football cards. The 2000 SP Authentic, which was printed to 1,100. And I used to have one of those in a PSA 10.
Right.
And the other day I called my wife Stacy and I'm like, check this out. I used to have this card. Check it out. It's selling for $200,000 right now. I sold mine for $13,000 about 6 years ago, thinking, I bought it for $3 and sold it for $13. I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. I'm like, it's $200,000 to $225,000 right now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody could have anticipated this. And the other Brady is the 2000 Bowman Chrome, which is the third most popular, and just a box of 2,000 unopened wax of Bowman Chrome goes for $15,000-$20,000. I think his rookie card goes to $25,000 to $30,000. Love of the Game, Chris Foley has a PSA 10 2000 Bowman Chrome Brady rookie card in his auction right now. So I guess we'll find out what the current market is on that pretty quick.
Right.
But
it's interesting to me because I go back, through the 90s, the 00s, the 10s. I'd be in like a Walmart or a Target, and I would see the display for cards, and inevitably I would normally pick up the Topps, whatever it was, and then if there was something else that just looked interesting to me, I'd buy a pack of that just to open it to see what the packs were. But again, a lot of those cards, a lot of those sets were sold hobby only, so you have to go to a card shop. And pick them up there. And here, unfortunately, in where I am now, we're down to basically 2 shops in a roughly 55-mile radius of me. One in the town right next to me who's still going strong. And then there's another shop that opened up in Newington, Connecticut. And realistically, that's it. There's a few others scattered throughout the state. But for somebody wanting to buy it, where are you buying it? So now they're buying it online, they're buying it through eBay, so on and so forth. And again, that's impacting the market to a certain degree, I feel. But again, the frenzy of people buying these cards, these newer boxes, and/or putting them away, so on and so forth, could drive the market 20 years from now at the same time. So there could be a 2020 football card encapsulated a Beckett grade 9 or 9.5, whatever, that could be the next $2 million card of who we don't know, or another Brady, or Brady again, or whatever. So it's amazing to see. It really is. It really is.
Well, you also have the problem of you and I both. Go for about.
No, I was going to say we're literally seeing the history of the new card market roll or open up in front of our eyes right now. It's amazing. Back to you.
Well, you also have, you and I, when I think about buying wax, I think about walking into the 7-Eleven near my grandmother's house, plunking down dollars. The display was right there on the counter. Now you have people who follow the tops. When they go to stock the store, they follow the tops car around, and there's two of them. And I've read this. I've seen people posting pictures of. So two people in two cars follow them around, and the person walks in, stocks the shelves with the new wax, and then a guy grabs it all, puts it in a cart, and buys it all. And it wipes it out. So he's standing there as they're stocking. And then there's another person outside who follows the guy to the next target or next place. While that guy's in there checking out, a person B follows him to the next place, texts person A where the next place is, and then they go sit and wait outside. So they follow this person around all day long, wiping it out. And that's a business. So, the next generation of people who are collectors aren't walking serendipitously down the aisle in Target and go, oh my gosh, wax boxes. Because if I was in Target and I saw them, I might buy a box. But if they're being wiped out by people who are hoarding them, by people who are just wiping them out and then taking them and putting them in their garage and hoping in the next 5 years, because right now it's gambling. Because if you bought Patrick Mahomes, the 10 different, 20 different, manufacturers who are putting out Patrick Mahomes rookie cards, and you bought boxes and put them on a shelf, and you're hoping one of those 20 hits, $20 for it, and you can sell for $20,000 in 2 years. Every year, you're just hoping the next rookie, turns into this. It's no longer collecting; it's gambling. You're not. And again, you're not getting any kids walking down the aisles buying it. It's gone.
We see this also at the National with all these different pack breaks where you got to buy the spot for the pack break, or you buy your team or whatever. And I'm saying to myself, this really doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to me. But again, this is not my enjoyment out of the hobby is, spending $100 for a spot from some guy who bought a box from Target or whatever when he's breaking them open, and he's making $5,000-$6,000 or whatever ridiculous figure he's making on the box just by opening it. And he's making a big production out of it. And again, for some people, they live for these box breaks. They enjoy it. But I agree with you. Where's the incentive for new collectors to come in the market if they go into a Target and they never see another wax box again? And again, I go to a couple of Walmarts here locally. Not one of them has cards anymore. They do not have cards anymore. I rarely see cards in a store anymore, and it's kind of crazy to me, And even the dollar stores would have packs for obviously $1, and even I don't see packs in there anymore. So I don't know what's going on with that now. So it's crazy.
Well,
truly crazy.
I don't know if you remember, but about 5-6 months ago, just for the heck of it, I bought a box of 2000 SP Authentic.
Right.
In an auction. And I remember posting it on VFC, and you're like, what are you doing? That's kind of a modern buy for you. And I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of like it. Who knows? One of these days I might open it at a National. You know what I paid for that. And
right.
A couple of those have recently sold. And just in the last 4 or 5 months, the price explosion of just that one box it has me shaking my head.
Yep.
So needless to say, I might not be doing a wax break at the Chicago National this year.
I definitely would hold on to that. I don't think it's a wise idea to open that. I really don't. I think it's worth much more unopened than it is open. Even if you do pull a Brady out of it or whatever, in a grade PSA 10 or whatever incredible grade on it type of thing. It's just, to me, it takes the fun out of opening up packs, in my opinion. And the other thing, I don't know if we talked about it in the last show, but we talked about it privately. 1988 Topps wax boxes are going for over $100 a box now. I am just so floored. I can't believe what I'm seeing. What in earth, besides the Bo Jackson rookie card, could drive that box, which was a return at one time, where you could have bought them for $5 and $10 each on clearance, is now $100 plus box.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I'm shocked by it.
Yeah, we talked about that on the show, and I brought up the story of me meeting a guy in Centralia, and I bought a couple hundred boxes of 88 wax. It filled my Ford Bronco to the point where it was weighted down, and I'm laughing, wishing I would have taken a picture of just boxes stacked on top of boxes. Somewhere I have a picture of my basement where I had a bunch of them, where I have a bunch of them stacked, but that was after I opened a bunch. I mean, I was just opening them and, checking them out. It was junk wax at the time. It was, $5 a box. So I'm just opening it for the sake of opening it. So, but $100. You're absolutely right.
That's just so crazy. It's not even funny. I mean, it's just I can't comprehend it. I really can't comprehend it, to say the least. And it's now, we're now seeing the $5 junk boxes are now $15 junk boxes. We're not seeing the even ProSet now is driving a higher price for whatever reason.
I think,
and there's millions of them out there. I mean, there is no shortage of 89.
89.
There's no shortage of 89, 90. No shortage whatsoever of Pro Set football. What in the earth could drive the price of Pro Set besides the quote-unquote Belichick rookie that's driving the, 1990 Series 2 Pro Set box? And again, there's got to be at least 1 million of those rookie cards out there. So how are they valued? I don't know. Makes no sense. It really does.
The Belichick rookie. I forgot about that one. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Truly crazy.
We'll see. Maybe we should get somebody from Leland's back on the show to talk about this post-hammer. But 2000 Topps contender Tom Brady playoff. Pretty interesting card.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, we're waiting for our guest to call in, so we've got a few more minutes here, and again, we're talking about the explosion of card prices, which just don't make any sense to me whatsoever. So,
and don't make any sense. In our last show, we talked about Heritage. Heritage ended over the weekend, so we had another snapshot of. They had quite a few. They had probably 40 or 50 wax packs that had been PSA graded and GAI. But your 65 Philly ended up hammering at around that $1,200 mark in a PSA 8 holder that we talked about. So about $1,200 for that old nickel pack of 65 Philly that young Bob Swick used to tear into. And it's incredible. There's I don't know if you noticed on eBay, a 1958 Topps wax box, BBC E graded, is on eBay right now for $250,000. So a wax box with 24 nickel packs, 12 cards per pack. So you have the chance at a Jim Brown rookie card in there for the low price of $250,000. I know I've talked about it in other shows, but at some point we just need to grab.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Where would your money be? But
it's crazy.
And it's what's incredible.
And again, go ahead. We're looking at a market that has been just totally changed over the past 20 years with the wrapping of the wax, the certification of the wax, the grading of the wax, so on and so forth. It's mind-boggling to me to see what's going on with it. Really, it's amazing, truly amazing. But it's a much different market.
Attention showed up in any auction. Not to mention an entire wax box of it, which is just how many of those are out there? I mean, and And if you plunk $250,000 on that right now, and everybody goes, "Oh my God, that's incredible," 20 years from now, it's even rarer. I mean, is it happened? Who knows? But it's even rarer. It's incredible. They're not making any more of this. Well, somebody in Pennsylvania is trying to reseal some of it, but it's, you can't even get wax wrappers for it, probably. So even he's going to have a hard time remaking it. But I don't know. Just wax boxes, just from that era, just getting rarer. It's incredible. Fun to think about, isn't it? Just
the evolution of wax to me, and I'll go back to the mid to late 1980s perspective. A lot of collectors decided to branch out more with their collections because they had completed their run, so on and so forth. I'm talking like 1984, 1985. So what they were doing is picking up a wax pack, picking up a wrapper, and trying to find a display box and add it to their collection. And I was one of those people who, had wrappers, I was saving wax boxes at the time because I wanted the box bottom cards on the tops boxes. And long story short, there were people like me that were trying to put a wrapper, the wax box, empty wax box, and the actual pack together, and to collect it in that manner. So long story short, as the years went on, and I started running out of room, first with the display boxes, I started selling off my display boxes. I had a lot from probably mid-late 70s up to the current ones. And then my wrapper collection, which I eventually sold, and I never went crazy with the unopened wax packs because they started getting expensive. And I said, okay, I just want the wrapper and the box, empty box, and that'll be a nice addition to the collection. You know what I mean? So, but I sold off all those collections, and the wax packs I basically either opened or ended up selling them off over the years because to me at that time, some of the stuff I had, the prices were just incredible. You know what I mean? Which I felt were incredible. And again, if I held them even longer, they would have been worth even more money. You know what I mean? So who knows?
Ditto.
It's crazy.
I was working on a run of unopened display boxes too, and I had somebody recommend the best way to do them. Which was to buy them, to cut out a piece of foam, to the size of the to the interior, to put it in there, and then to shrink wrap them. So I was doing that on a few, and I really liked how they displayed. It was really cool. And putting the foam inside of them made them a little more robust. So, but again, like you mentioned, started running out of room. Then I as I have a propensity to do, I got a little bored, sold them probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and sold my wax, 8-9 years ago after a couple shows. I had an unopened Series 2 61 clear box in my collection, unopened. Just all the packs inside of it and everything. I remember buying it, then 3 years later selling it. It's just, I don't know. It's as we mentioned, they're not making any more of it, so this stuff's only going to appreciate. Who knows? Maybe.
Correct.
Crazy. Know that.
Truly crazy.
But who knows? I still collect quite a bit of uncut sheets. Those are difficult to store, but I created a display, a way to display them. I started hanging in my office, and then down in my basement, I have a closet that's kind of surrounded by concrete. I built a shelf in there. I put a piece of melamine MDF down, built a shelf, and it's 4x8. So I put the sheets on that, and then I have another, basically a giant top loader that I put on top of it, and I have another MDF board that's the exact size of uncut sheet that I lay on top of it, to help keep them, because most of them have been furled up and put in a tube. So they come with that memory. So laying them flat and then putting this, plywood, this MDF, faced plywood on top of it, so it's clean, really helps land flat. But I mean, I've dedicated that room. I've built that shelf. I'm committed. I have probably 250 uncut sheets that I have a place to store, and I'm happy with it. It's conditioned. I have a light in there. It's fun.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe one of these days, uncut sheets will be the next wax pack. Boom.
Right. Our guest is here, and I'd like to introduce him and get started with his part of our show. Our special guest tonight is the editor of the Pro Football Journal. He's also the awards chairman of the Pro Football Researchers Association. He is a football researcher and author, and I'd like to welcome tonight to the show Mr. John Turney. John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, my apologies.
No problem.
The information. Yeah, it's only 3:18 here, so I was waiting to call in an hour, but things get crossed once in a while. So anyway, glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Nice.
Thanks for being on, John. And I want to lead off by asking you, tell our audience about your background and why you started the Pro Football Journal.
Well, it started maybe 30 years ago when I started doing research about quarterback sacks. I knew that you could find them if you looked for them, and you couldn't get them in normal media guides and things like that. So everything kind of snowballed from there. I got a little bit of publicity in the early 90s, and it grew from there. And then in the 2000s, maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, I started Pro Football Journal because I just wanted to kind of download all the interesting things that I thought were cool in one place where people could find them. It's not mainstream stuff. It's like blocked kicks. It's forced fumbles. It's odd trades, all the kind of things that we call esoteric parts of the game. And it's certainly not what younger fans like, but we've found a little niche audience, we think.
That was obviously before the days of Twitter, John. This is Joe, by the way. That was obviously before the days of Twitter. So, I mean, was that a blog that your blog post started first, or which came first?
Well, I was a member of the Pro Football Researchers Association, and I'd done some writing for Pro Football Weekly and College and Pro Football News Weekly. Both are out of business, as many print magazines are. And then the blog started first, and then I went to Twitter. Sure.
Nice. Why not?
Chad, I'm also a member of the Pro Football Researchers Association. I've been a member. I think I was trying to figure out before about 31 years, I think. And I go back to the days of Bob Carroll, who I'm sure you know. And it's great organization, very interesting articles in their newsletter that they come out with 6 times a year. So we have that in common also. Okay, back to Joe.
Yeah, I started following you on Twitter about a year ago, and just your posts they're great. I mean, you take a really good fun approach to you have throwback photos, you posted up cards, even episodes of Cheers where pro players walk in. How do you find your stuff? You have 12,000 Twitter followers. How do you find the material you post? Like an example, a week ago you put up one of Bo Jackson and Brian Bosworth, which is a pretty nice reach if you get it. And just and in there Bo Jackson's like, I guess I'm gonna go home and watch a video of me running over you for the next 50 years, which just made me laugh. How do you come up with your material?
Well, I think that just comes from having a very good memory. Being an avid sports fan for all these years, all those things were kind of caught in my mind. And then with this miracle called the Internet, people post clips here and there. And part of what my blog has is it's got 4 subsections. One of them is on NFL art. And you guys know that back in the day, Merv Corning and Chuck Wren would have these great paintings in the middle of NFL programs. And also there was, you remember, just all that stuff. And there's just no place to go and kind of go through and thumb through it. unless you have, hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy all the memorabilia, and nobody can afford all of that. So we put samples up of that. Then I've got a section called NFL in Hollywood, and it's clips and photos of all these players who've made the transition to being an actor. But sometimes they only did 1 or 2 episodes, and people can't find those. So if I'm watching an episode online, I'll download the clip and post it under fair use and do it as kind of commentary, which you're allowed to do. So people can see somebody like a Dick Bass, who was in Sanford and Son, or the things that Bubba Smith did, or some of them are just quite hilarious. Lamar Lundy was a kind of a one-eyed cyclops, and I can't even remember. It was one of the sci-fi TV series of the 1960s. So people can look through all that. And NFL ads, for example, is another section where these guys would do ads in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're just hilarious. They would sell Norelco shaving stuff, or you've seen all that stuff. So I just tried to make it a one-shop stopping for guys that remember stuff like that, like I do.
Yeah, I was watching that Seahawks, Raiders Monday Night Football game when Bo Jackson tore it up. I was probably Bo Jackson. I was probably about 16, 17 at the time, and I just remember watching that, and I went, "Holy crap, that guy's good!" Just wow. We all knew who Bo Jackson was at the time, but we just didn't know the breadth of his talent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's just a lot of guys that are in that age range. We're not really baby boomers, although there's probably some that are, but it's kind of that in-between generation, that Generation X. And I think that's kind of who I appeal to, because we're kind of cynical. We're neither right nor left. We're just kind of like, hey, just leave us alone. These are things we like. So that's who I think the target audience is.
You're spot on. That's exactly what I've noticed. That's what originally attracted me to follow your Twitter account, just because it was just funny. It was right in that niche. You're exactly right.
And the whole
go ahead, please.
The whole area of football advertising is a nice collectible, and I know several people who specialize in football advertising. They collect pieces out of magazines, so on and so forth, mailers or whatever. And it's a nice addition to any collection, and it's sometimes, very overlooked at the same time. That you can actually, find a lot of pieces very reasonable of Hall of Fame stars who advertise in certain different, like you said, for Norelco, clothers, things of that nature. So that's pretty neat. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I find it also kind of funny, and I've gotten in trouble. I think, sometimes because for some reason, Madison Avenue liked to put a lot of defensive linemen in their underwear. And so there's a lot of guys that did underwear ads, and I'll make a little joke about it now and again, saying, is this Kenzie 4 or Kenzie 6, and that'll get you into trouble a little bit, but it's not meant to hurt anybody. It's just kind of, dates, like in Seinfeld. It's nothing wrong with that. That's fine, but it's just kind of funny to see guys like Mark Gastineau and Howie Long and Jack Youngblood and Fred Dryer in their underwear.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Exactly. Hey, if I were famous, there's some pretty funny photos of me, when I was young. So nobody cares about me. So.
Well, I had one that I thought was my favorite. It's Howie Long laying sideways in some shorts, bare-chested and laying out kind of like Kate Winslet did in Titanic, and the caption was, "Jack, paint me like one of your French girls."
Oh.
I don't know if Chris Long, I think Chris Long even saw that one and thought it was funny.
Nice. Well, it is funny. It's self-deprecating humor is the best kind of humor. If you can't laugh at yourself, then get over it, I guess. It's just, Howie, you laid down for the ad. You thought it was a good idea at the time. Hey, let's poke fun at you a little bit. So
Exactly.
It's amazing. John, talk a little bit about your Pro Football Journal, which is your long-standing blog, and it seems to be very, obviously, much more football metric related. You can find it at nflfootballjournal.blogspot.com. Expand that out for our audience.
Well, yeah, I think hardcore fans will find it interesting. I don't know that casual current fans will love it because it focuses on the past more than the future or the current. We've got great writers like Chris Willis from NFL Films, and he covers the beginning of the football era all the way through the, probably the 1940s or 50s. He's written books on. He's working on Bronco Nagurski, but I believe he's done the definitive work on Red Grange and also Dutch Clark. And if you want to see his opinion on who the top 50 ends are or tackles pre-World War II, you can read it, and he's got a list of 50 guys. Many of them I had never even heard of. We also have T.J. Troop, who's written a couple of books on the 50s, and the guy studies more film than anyone. And Nick Webster and I also study a lot of film as well. And I like to find little things that are just what I find interesting. I found a clip recently of a play where John Brody handed it to Bill Kilmer. Bill Kilmer passes it to Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson is a Hall of Fame defensive back, but he was playing flanker early in his career. And the guy who made the tackle was Night Train Lane. But also in the film was Dick LeBeau and Alex Karras. So you had all these Hall of Famers in the play, and some of them playing different positions than they were normally playing. And I have a hashtag on Twitter where you can find that. Just go hashtag HOF versus HOF, Hall of Famer versus Hall of Famer. So you'll find these guys going against each other. Another interesting thing, I found still shots of it, and I knew this had happened, but there were 4 defensive ends who were in the Hall of Fame who began their career or played significant time at offensive line. So I've got an actual picture or clips of Deacon Jones in his first game playing left tackle. Elvin Bethea, same thing. Gino Marchetti in his second year playing left tackle. And then Willie Davis in his second year playing left and right tackle. How many people know that? So we're just trying to share those things with people.
Yeah, I saw that post of yours. I thought that was fascinating. I didn't know that. And it was just, and you had so many examples of it, and the stills. I had no idea. It was fascinating.
Yeah, and it's something that we've just lost a lot of the great writers that used to tell us stuff like that. And it's kind of fun to make fun of the media. Oh, these guys don't know anything when they maybe don't put a guy we like in the Hall of Fame. Or somebody made All-Pro that didn't deserve it. And we say, the media doesn't know what they're doing. But we have to remember, the media taught us everything we know. The Paul Zimmermans and the Tex Malls and, going way back to Dan Jenkins. And all these guys wrote, and they have all these books. And that's where I learned everything. And I don't really collect memorabilia. I've got a few pieces here and there. But what I do collect is books. And I've got tons and tons of all those paperbacks, unique paperbacks you can imagine. I probably have it. I also have a lot of hardbacks and media guides, things like that, magazines, game programs. That's where I put my money because I thought I can enjoy what's in them, but also learn from what's in them. So that's kind of what my blog is. It's kind of like taking everything and putting it into one thing, and that's why I called it a journal, because basically it's just a journal. It's whatever comes to our mind, we just put it down. Like when you would get a game program of the 1975 title game, you would get articles, and you would get artwork, and you would get photos, and you would get ads. So essentially that's what we're patterned after, is a game program.
That's a great point because
that's pretty cool.
I think it's very overlooked in the hobby. I take everything from a hobby perspective. That programs, books, paperbacks, magazines, Street and Smiths, all those publications provide so much information that seems to me is like really overlooked in the hobby to a large degree. So I'm really glad you said that because there's few people that just specialize in publications, and even fewer that are just looking for the publications for the information in it. So that's great, and I can see it in the journal. I can definitely see it in your blog too. And that's great to see. And you are preserving the history of the game also by doing that. So that's very good. I'd like.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what the gist of it is it's just kind of trying to hold on to the past a little bit longer. As the game turns more into a fantasy football game and the uniforms get more and more ridiculous and the fans get younger and younger and they care more about, who they're going to start in week 13 if their quarterback goes down, which, I don't even care about. I do remember, and that's how I just kind of got obsessed with the books. I remember when the Belichicks, Bill Belichick and his dad, donated their book collection to, I believe it was the Annapolis Library.
Right.
And they had, like they said, it was the third largest private collection in the country, and it had like 1,000 volumes. And I thought, these guys are pikers. I've got 1,000 media guides. I mean, I've got more books than they do, and they were, getting. So I feel like I've done a pretty good job because I started early on, and you could get one of those pocket books, and the Xander Hollander's guys. You could get them for $1.50 in the 90s. Some of them I've had since I was a kid. So you build that up, and now they're $10, $20, $30 a piece. But I got in it when they were young, when I was younger and had some money, and goodness, it's just been great. I've just got bookshelves, and that's my collection. That's my memorabilia, if you will.
Nice.
That's great.
I'm gonna have to look
That's
up the word piker, but I'm gonna have to look up the word piker, but I get the feeling it's a compliment.
Well, piker means they're not as prolific. It's it's somebody who doesn't have what I have. They're not as good. So it was a kind of an insult.
Yeah, I know. I was kidding.
Oh, I gotcha. Sorry.
My West Coast sense of humor is lost in translation. And that's my next question. Like I said before, what really started cracking me up is I've got a weird sense of humor, and your posts were kind of cracking me up. The interesting ones, the very hot, the very sports centric ones I love because obviously I love football, but then also the sarcastic, the fun ones that poke fun at people. I mean, they were all good, and I had to be curious as a guy with a weird sense of humor whose sense of humor has gotten me in trouble a few times. And you kind of alluded to it earlier, where some people weren't happy with some posts. Have you ever posted anything that kind of got you in trouble that somebody got pissed off about?
No, not really, really bad. I mean, I've never gotten in trouble for, in terms of getting any kind of strikes or anything like that. There's been a few people that would object, like if I would make fun of a player, and they would say, "Oh, you're better than that." There was a couple of times when, like a couple of OJ jokes, they would object because it was maybe a little off color. One time I found there was an ad in a wish book, those Christmas wish books, and there was 3 guys wearing stuff they were selling. You remember those shirts we would all buy or the jackets that they would find in the Christmas catalogs. And there was 3 kids, and they're actually pretty tough looking. One was like about 14, the other looked about 17, and the other looked like he was in college. So they just looked a little odd to be wearing that kind of colorful stuff. And so I said something like, the little kid is the one who beat the crap out of you. The other one is the one who defended his little brother, and also, and I said something off color to your sister in the backseat of the car, and then the older guy is the one that sells weed to all the kids in the neighborhood. So I caught some grief for that one.
You a couple days ago you put one up about and it was Burt Reynolds with a Deliverance reference, and I just started laughing, and I'm like, okay, that's you have to have watched the movie and you have to have a sense of humor to get that one, but it kind of made me laugh and or cringe at the same time. It was pretty good, but you have an odd sense of humor. I've had people.
That one, to be honest with you, I can't. Yeah, I can't take credit. I think you're talking about Super 70 Sports on that one.
Oh, I beg your pardon. You're right. Yeah.
Although he's the master. That's okay, though, but he's the king. So there's time, and he and I are friends, and when somebody stole his password, he was off for a week, and I was
Oh, wow.
hassling Twitter, saying, hey, free him, he's great. And he's even more over the top than I am, trust me. Although I have sent him things that I thought of that I won't say, and a couple of them he wouldn't say. So he and I have the same sense of humor. He just doesn't care. He's got 300,000 or 400,000 followers. So he's not gonna. If he says something, he gets in trouble all the time. And what he says to them is he just raises his middle finger verbally. So he doesn't care. Yeah. But to be honest with you, I think he's hilarious, and I'm not even close to as good as he is. So. But thank you for thinking I'm almost, thank you for putting me in the same sentence, because that's a compliment.
Nice. Right on.
That's funny.
Well, good. I'm glad you haven't gotten in too much trouble.
No, I haven't. But it is fun, and sometimes, and the biggest compliment I ever had was I put up something about Bill Cosby and O.J. about 3 years ago, and then about a month ago he put up one that was almost the same. So I said, you know what? I've arrived. I'm almost as good as he is.
Some of this stuff's writing itself. Just you just think Bill Cosby and OJ, and immediately the guy was just start a joke off. So Bill Cosby and OJ walk into a bar. I mean, and that's it. You don't even need a punchline to that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or I had one picture of O.J. and John Brody during their playing days, and John Brody obviously was covering the game as a broadcaster, and he was holding his hands about, 8 inches apart, kind of like as you would, about 8 inches apart with his palms together. And the caption I put was, I don't know, O.J., you'd probably need a knife about this big, but why in the world would you ask such a sick question? And that got a big response.
Yeah, I imagine that. I love it.
John,
well, there's a lot. Well, with Deshaun Watson, I mean, if this stuff proves to be true, he's gonna get a lot of comments from me because I'm extremely, sensitive to that particular issue. And if he's this kind of predator, which he may be, he's gonna get the same treatment. So.
Yeah.
It's only fair. It's almost like news commentary in a different way when you take down people like that. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see what happens. But if 16, 17 people are lying, I think that'd be the first time in history 16 or 17 people would lie about the 17th. So I generally believe the women.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I hear you.
And that's going to ruin his career. That's just too bad,
John, we talked a little bit about your the blog that you have with NFL Fun Stuff. So I'm going to have Joe move into his question after that because we were talking about cards. You collect basically media guides, publications, books. So, Joe, handing off to you on your question there.
Yeah, you name dropped Chris Willis, who's been on the show a few times, who, Bob and I have both read his book, promote his books. He came on to talk about his Nagurski book that he's writing and to review his Red Grange. I'm a huge Red Grange fan. Trying to talk him into writing a book on Steve Largent next. He said he'd look into it. I get the feeling he's shining me on. But Ebbets Field, he's been on the show. I have a Jim Thorpe Canton Bulldog, sweater that I bought from him. I mean, the hobby becomes pretty small, and it seems like we're in the same sandbox. How do you, obviously, you met Chris from the professional writers, but how do you know Ebbets Field, et cetera?
Well, Ebbets Field, that stuff is just awesome. I just love
incredible.
Part of what football is just, I guess what we try to do and what game programs do is football is a huge part of our culture. And I think what I'm trying to do subconsciously is try to make the connection to how big football is into our culture. And that football is a total experience. It's not just one thing. It's not just the outcome of the score. It's not just the statistics. but it's also the pageantry of the game, the uniform, but also the humor that happens on the field, and also the awesome physical prowess, as you guys were talking about with a Bo Jackson. And all these things together make it kind of an experience that doesn't become boring because it has so many facets. Now, maybe not everybody looks at it that way, but collecting stuff is part of that. I mean, one of the few things I do have is I've worked on a few guys, tried to help them maybe get in the Hall of Fame, maybe, some didn't, but I became, I never would charge them for it, but I would say, hey, send me a jersey. So I've got a few jerseys from guys like that. But another thing, it wasn't Epic Field Collectibles, but I got some old jerseys from the 1920s. They were replicas, of course. And I just thought those were cool to wear around. When I was coaching football, semi-pro, I would wear them, and my players would look at them, and it might have been like the Los Angeles Buccaneers or the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. And they would look at those things, and they would just say, oh, that's still pretty cool. And because they weren't exact replicas, they didn't maybe do as good a job as Ebbets Field does, but they were still good enough. And dang, they were expensive, but they were that, tackle twill material with all this stuff. And so I love those kinds of things. It's part of the pageantry of the game that makes it interesting, which is why I get upset when so many of these teams let Nike design their uniforms, and then Nike screws them up. Then 5 years later, they'll go back to the originals, like the Browns and the Bucks and all these teams that trusted Nike, and then Nike ended up screwing the pooch.
Yeah. Like I mentioned about the Canton Bulldog one, and I love it. The fabric feels cool. It looks good. I mean, and just people, people. I dig it. It's such a throwback, and they do such a good job just replicating it. It's great. I was trying to get them to make a Red Grange one with the friction tape and everything from like Illinois, on it, but he said it was a little too complicated.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But you might be able to figure out a way to do it yourself, I don't know. But that would be, my fantasy would be, although I like wearing baseball jerseys more, although I don't do it that much anymore. But if I were Steve Jobs or one of these internet billionaires, I would wear that kind of thing every day to work, I wouldn't wear the suit and the tie. I would wear a baseball jersey with with a T-shirt underneath and jeans and sneakers. Yeah. That would be my idea of heaven. That should be, they should have Casual Friday like that every day. But of course, not everybody's into it, and those of us who might do it might be looked at as weird and dorks. But maybe we are.
Oh, we are.
It's very interesting.
We all are. Yeah, we all are. Bob and I were talking before the show, and it's just, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
No, go ahead.
To say we're all, we collect football cards. We're all grown men who collect pictures of men and tights on cardboard. So I mean, none of us can really wag a finger at another, what another person wears or collects. So.
Yeah, that's true, and that's probably Kinsey 3 or 4 right there.
Yeah.
So
John, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you've become an adult though when you can confess your inner nerdship, and so we've all done that. We are nerds, so we're actually adults that just like childish things.
Yep. Yeah, you're doing a great job of it, putting everything that was part of our childhood out on the internet for all of us to laugh at and enjoy. So, yeah.
All right, we're almost out of time,
I hope,
John.
Okay.
Any final thoughts? And/or any advice for a beginning collector, if you have any?
Well, my only advice would be collect what you love. The market is, you can make money doing it, and God bless those people who have the patience to buy something, and then have the ability to, put it on eBay or sell it. And it's just not a real liquid market. So don't do it as an investment. Do it as a love. That would all be my only advice.
Yeah,
that's good advice.
Good point.
I wish more people did it, especially the two guys that drive around every Walmart and Target and buy out all their wax boxes on a daily basis at the same time. John, thanks for being on.
Sure, thank you.
And again, Twitter, Pro Football Journal, your blogs, NFLjournal.blogspot.com and NFLfunstuff.blogspot.com. Check it out. Very enjoyable, very interesting, very historical. Sincerely, thanks for preserving the game also, because there's a lot of history you're showing people probably for the first time that they've ever seen, and it can pique the interest of people to get them to collect and or study or read about the game of football. So it's very good.
Well, thank you for the compliments. I don't know that I deserve them all, but I appreciate them just the same.
Well,
John, you're doing great. I really enjoy your Twitter posts, your blog. I just really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show, man.
Oh, anytime. You guys are great.
All right, we're in our 2-minute warning. Again, check out our website, GridironGreatsMagazine.com. If you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for? Joe, we're down to a minute real quick. Hand it off to you. Pick up on tonight's show.
Unopened wax, people in the hobby with good senses of humor that are fun to follow. Tom Brady, who's the next $1 million football card? A lot of things have to scratch my head in our hobby.
Crazy. It's crazy. I enjoyed talking to John tonight for the simple reason he put a lot of things in perspective, and I just loved hearing him saying, he's got all those media guides, programs, magazines, so on and so forth, books. It just reminds me so much of me, and I always said to myself, I love the printed word of the game, but I don't like what I read today. I like what I read basically from roughly 2000 and back, because that's, to me, a lot of the real work. Today, there's really no sports journalism. I don't see it anywhere, type of thing. All right, we're out of time. Check out our website again, GridironGreatsMagazine.com. Until next time, we'll be back in April with new shows. Thanks for listening.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.